Greetings, Dr. Mayor, City Council members. I appreciated the introduction by Mr. Schrader. Again, I'm Harvey Liss, a 39-year resident of Irvine and a former planning commissioner, and I'm only addressing one of the reasons to uphold the appeal now, and that is the potential contamination issue, as Mr. Schrader alluded to. So first, I should clear up one big misconception. When property is released from the National Priorities List, it does not mean that the site is necessarily free from contamination. It only means that the identified contamination has been removed. Contamination on the El Toro Marine Base was identified when base closure was imminent, and it was identified from official records and also from aerial photos that identified landfills. And then on the ground, extensive surveys were made only of those suspected and expected areas of contamination, and then mechanisms were devised to remove the contamination. It does not mean that the released areas were intensively evaluated for contamination. And everything I'm saying is certainly verifiable in Department of Navy documents. And over the past years, I've probably perused more than 10,000 pages of those documents. A perfect example of what I'm saying is the contamination accidentally discovered in November of 2013 in the Agua Chinon. 661 cubic yards of contaminated soil were removed during the excavation for some infrastructure. What was 661 cubic yards of contaminated soil doing in that spot? It wasn't officially dumped there. It wasn't on any map, yet it was found, and no one asked where it came from. And then again, just a year later, November 2014, when excavation was being performed along Irvine Boulevard for a box storm drain, another huge contaminated area of soil was encountered. It was encountered because it stunk, and the workers aren't going to work there in those fumes. And I smelled them as well when I went out there on a Sunday. Over 900 cubic yards of material were removed. Again, no one asked where it came from. How did it get there? The school site was classified as a farm, agricultural. What in agriculture deposits enough material to contaminate almost 1,000 cubic yards of soil with naphthalene contamination and other petrochemicals? On a military base, during wartime, the various solvents and fuel and whatnot that are used are deposited anywhere. There's no environmental controls starting in 1943 through the early 50s. That's why these huge amounts of contamination were found in unexpected areas. And all contamination that's going to be found are going to be found now in unexpected areas. The problem is, we don't know where those unexpected areas are. Yes, when contamination is found, it will be removed. But what about all the areas that have contamination that were not found? That will only be found after years of employees, students, and staff at the school or in the residences surrounding the school start coming down with illnesses. And when that happens, what's the first thing that's going to happen? Well, a potential contamination issue is going to be the first possible suspect, and that's going to require some real evaluation. These properties have never been evaluated just because they're cleared, and you have to remember that an EIR is a highly biased document paid for by the project proponent. Every case of a school having these contamination problems involved an EIR, like in Malibu. I read the EIR. The EIR was prepared by a company that was willing to come up with the result that the project proponent wanted. EIRs should be paid for by public agencies and funded by public agencies, not by the project proponent.
Okay, thank you very much. Your time has been